Thank you for
Our
having
final
me.
speaker for this morning is Kea Mindlin, a yoga educator for 20 years. Kea Mindlin works with dedicated practitioners and teachers seeking mature knowledge and practice. Her students resonate with her mothering approach to philosophy for householders and her emphasis on nourishing practice. Kea weaves storytelling, yoga therapy, Vedanta, Tantra, Ayurveda, and Vedic astrology and Sanskrit into her teaching. She is committed to reestablishing a value for the softer side of yoga and upholding yoga's roots, thanks to her generous teachers, who include Dr. Sarita Shrestha, Hart Defau, Geeti Peshkar, and Swami Danyananda Saraswati. She lives in the Pacific Northwest with her husband, Vedic astrologer Michael Manzella, and their children. We've just seen the ways in which yoga was otherized and stereotyped as dangerous in the US historically. Unfortunately, such attitudes still continue, with some conservative groups in Alabama claiming that yoga can leave you injured, psychotic, and a Hindu. All apparently bad things. What is perhaps even more worrying is that Hinduphobia is also present in yoga spaces themselves. Keaji has offered a video testimonial entitled Yogaland and Hinduphobia to explore this topic. Let's all learn from her offering.
Hi, I want to start with a little story. This morning, my 7-year-old was listening to a recording that someone had gifted him, a CD of a Western kirtan singer. And this singer was chanting to Hanuman instead of Hanuman. And so my son came over to me after a while of listening and he said, you know, Mama, I was thinking it's really bad when teachers say Sanskrit words wrong because they're teaching a lot of people and then all of those people will go on to think that that's the right way. And they'll do that because people trust their teachers and they think their teachers know everything. And then he said, they might have even been pronouncing the word in the right way before, but then they hear this teacher say it in the wrong way and they'll think they must be right because they're the teacher and they'll say it in the wrong way too. And that's really bad. And he's right. And this is a big problem in the field that I work in, which is yoga. So my name is Kea Mindlin. I've been a yoga educator for 20 years and I've been fortunate to study for over 2 decades with authentic stewards of Hindu Dharma, both indigenous and non-indigenous. I really consider Hindu Dharma to be like an additional parent in my life. From early on in my teaching, it was very obvious that yogic teachings as they're being presented and sold in Yogaland were massively distorted. But for many years, I really saw this as just an innocent ignorance due to lack of exposure to good teachers and teachings. My view of the cause of these distortions started to change as I witnessed the relentlessness of those distortions, even in the face of stewards of the tradition attempting to help bring more understanding and truth. There's almost a hunger for distorted teachings and a rejection of authentic teachings. And when this particularly struck me, was in a conference a couple of years ago in which a very well-known, famous, loved teacher in Yogaland made the statement, Sanskrit is a language of oppression. I've since heard that statement parroted a number of times by many different teachers, and it is based on some rewritten ideas of history and some very deeply wrong and hateful notions about Hindu Dharma, Hindu people, and Sanskrit. Of course, in fact, Sanskrit is not a language of oppression. It is a language of liberation and moksha. Sadly, this individual went on to say that she had never studied Sanskrit, but that she would like to do a translation of the Bhagavad Gita and Patanjali Yoga Sutra someday. This is totally confounding to me, how someone could say that they've never studied Sanskrit and then say that they'd like to do a translation of a Sanskrit text. It makes no sense. And then to say that in spite of never studying Sanskrit, making this claim that Sanskrit is a language of oppression was more than confounding. It was truly heartbreaking. It sent a shockwave through me. This was like an electric effect that really in a moment shifted my whole viewpoint about what was really going on under the surface behind all of these distortions and confusions and wrong notions in yoga land. What I had previously perceived as just being a default of ignorance and confusion, I realized could only exist on a foundation of Hinduphobia. What is happening in most of Yogaland is a simultaneous rejection of stewards of the tradition, of indigenous Hindu people, of accurate, apt teachings, and then a looting and a grabbing of little pieces that are like decoration, distorting, reformatting, redefining, while still using the word yoga and other Sanskrit words, often mispronounced, in order to sell products. I happen to be recording this during the last few days of Navaratri, those days that are dedicated to Saraswati Devi, the one who manifests as sound, as sacred language, as Sanskrit, as truth and right perception, the one who manifests as the independent bliss born of wisdom. And I hope that the principle of Saraswati Devi prevail during this conference, that it is a victorious endeavor to educate the world on what it is to truly have reverence for the Hindu tradition and for other human beings. Here are just a few of the things that I have seen. Yoga teachers saying my yoga and then redefining the meaning of the word yoga, the meaning of the concept and purpose of yoga according to their own whim, idea, feeling. Yoga means to me. Yoga studios that have Sanskrit names in which the owners of those studios mispronounce the name and have never considered asking someone who knows Sanskrit pronunciation or asking an indigenous Hindu person, how is this word pronounced? Books published that consider themselves the 2.0 update to yoga, fixing everything that's wrong with yoga in their own image. The term post-lineage yoga, so contradictory to what yoga in fact is. There is no yoga without lineage, without parampara. The constant claim in Yogaland that we need to evolve yoga, when what's really happening is that they're realizing that the Yogaland yoga is in fact quite faulty. That's what needs to be evolved, not yoga itself. The statement Sanskrit is a language of oppression, said again and again now. Teachers teaching other teachers how to teach yogic philosophy when those teachers themselves have never studied yogic philosophy with an authentic teacher. Workshops and books and classes on chakras with rainbow colored pictures and all kinds of distortion that's based on Western occultism, but using Sanskrit decoration in order to sell the product. Goat yoga, wine yoga, chocolate yoga, naked couples, Valentine's Day yoga, and all other yoga gimmicks that are in direct opposition to yoga's fundamental purpose. The Christian proselytization attitude that has yoga teachers saying whatever gets people on the mat. Yoga cushions that are sat on with sacred symbols on them. Yoga mats that are stood on with sacred symbols on them. The constant ask by white yoga teachers for Devanagari so that they can put a tattoo on their body. The almost total absence of indigenous Hindu teachers in every yoga organization, board, faculty, or blog list of the top 20 yoga teachers you need to know about. The very idea that 200 hours of study results in someone who should have the title of yoga teacher. The reference to Yoga Shastra as the history of yoga. The phrase yoga is not Hindu. The phrase there's no divine in yoga. There's no God in yoga. And on it goes. It is an overall view that yoga acknowledges transactional, that we can take the bits that we like, that look pretty, and reject everything else, including rejecting the indigenous stewards of this tradition. I now understand that all of that can only happen because of Hinduphobia.
I want to thank Kaya Mindlin for that testimonial, along with all of the other speakers, and for their hard work in putting together what was a wonderful morning session. Let's honor them all with a namaste. It's been really amazing for me to MC this morning session. This has truly been a beautiful beginning for what I'm sure will be an even more engaging and fantastic remainder of the day. Remember, the conference will resume at 1:15 p.m.
For the latest on our YouTube channel, click subscribe and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. Remember to like, comment, and share our videos. For more about HSC, you can visit the social media handles listed below.